Across 7-star systems, the Kreth ruled through fear. Their apex predator, the Vexnari warrior caste, had never lost a planetary invasion. These creatures stood 12 feet tall. They could tear through armored vehicles with their bare claws. Their hunters tracked prey across continents using heat signatures invisible to human eyes. For 300 years, entire civilizations surrendered the moment a Vexnari dropped from orbit. But here's what the galaxy doesn't want you to know. The most elite Vexnari unit in existence, the one that conquered 18 worlds without a single casualty, encountered something on Earth they couldn't defeat. And it wasn't our military, it wasn't our weapons, it was a 73-year-old man with a combat broom. I know that sounds impossible. But the truth behind this will shock you. This story has 3 revelations that will change everything you think you know about humanity's place in the galaxy. First, you'll discover why the galaxy's most feared predators had a secret weakness built into their DNA, and why Earth accidentally weaponized it. Second, I'll show you the real reason human elders became the most requested bodyguards in 16 alien species. And third, you'll learn about the treaty clause that turned one man's garage tool into the most regulated weapon system in galactic law. They called him Walter Hayes, retired postal worker, widower, weekend woodworker. The Kreth Empire's Psychological Warfare Division studied his encounter for 7 years. What they found terrified them so badly they classified it above their own nuclear launch codes. Because Walter didn't just defeat their apex predator, he made it retreat. He made it question 3 centuries of genetic programming. He did something the entire Kreth military doctrine said was biologically impossible, and he did it with a broom handle and 73 years of not having time for this nonsense. The incident lasted 4 minutes and 19 seconds. When it was over, the Kreth Empire withdrew from Earth's solar system. They petitioned the Galactic Council for protective status. They demanded humans be classified as a persistence predator species, a category that hadn't been used in 2,000 years. Let me show you exactly how this happened. And more importantly, why Walter Hayes became the most feared name in 7-star systems while still watering his tomatoes every Tuesday morning. The Kreth Empire made first contact with Earth on a Tuesday. They followed standard protocol. Send the Vexnari. Let the prey species see what's coming. Watch them surrender before the first ship lands. The Vexnari weren't just soldiers. They were perfected killing machines. The Kreth had spent 800 years breeding them for one purpose: domination through overwhelming physical superiority. A single Vexnari could match 40 trained human soldiers in combat simulations. Their bone density was 3 times ours. Their reaction time, clocked at 16 milliseconds, faster than a human could blink. They'd evolved on a Deathworld where everything hunted everything. The Kreth found them, domesticated them, turned them into the galaxy's most effective invasion force. Every species that encountered Vexnari either surrendered immediately or got erased from the galactic census within a week. Earth received the standard warning: submit to Kreth governance, accept military occupation, hand over your resources. The alternative was a Vexnari deployment. Our governments tried negotiating. The Kreth sent one Vexnari warrior to Los Angeles as a demonstration of resolve. This wasn't a battle. It was a message. The creature landed in downtown LA at 2:47 p.m. Pacific time. Military response arrived in 11 minutes. By then, the Vexnari had already torn through 2 SWAT teams and 1 National Guard platoon. This is where military analysts expected Earth to fold. This is where every previous species had chosen survival over pride. But here's the first surprise. Humans don't calculate surrender the same way other species do. We're weird about it. We've got this thing where we'd rather try something stupid than accept something logical. The Vexnari moved north through suburban neighborhoods. Standard Kreth psychological warfare. Let the prey see you coming. Let them spread panic. Let them break their own social cohesion through fear. The creature reached a quiet street in Pasadena at 3:02 p.m. Modest homes, trimmed lawns, basketball hoops in driveways. The exact kind of neighborhood that represented everything the Creth assumed made humans soft. Walter Hayes was sweeping his driveway. He'd just finished his afternoon woodworking session. He was 73 years old, 5'9", 162 pounds. His medical records showed arthritis in both knees and hearing loss in his left ear. According to every Creth assessment model, he represented zero tactical threat. The Vex Nari spotted him from 40 meters away. Heat signature confirmed him as elderly. Movement patterns indicated physical decline. Threat assessment, negligible. The creature approached to complete the standard intimidation sequence. Get close. Let the prey see your size. Watch them break. Now here's where things get really interesting, because what happened in the next 4 minutes violated every understanding the Creth had about prey species behavior. And it started with Walter Hayes putting down his regular broom and walking into his garage. He came out carrying something different. That broom wasn't normal, and Walter Hayes wasn't a typical elderly human. Let me explain what makes this absolutely crucial. The Creth Empire's entire invasion strategy relied on one assumption, that intelligent species lose their combat effectiveness as they age. This wasn't speculation. They'd tested it across 47 species. The pattern held every single time. Older individuals became risk-averse. They prioritized survival. They had slower reflexes and weaker bodies. They surrendered first. This made evolutionary sense. Why would nature waste resources making old creatures dangerous? Earth didn't get that memo. Walter Hayes had spent 32 years delivering mail. That meant 32 years of walking 23 miles per day in every weather condition California could throw at him. His leg strength at 73 exceeded most 40-year-olds. His cardiovascular system had decades of conditioning that made him functionally tireless. But that wasn't the real weapon. The real weapon was pattern recognition. Here's what the Creth didn't understand about human elders. We don't just age. We accumulate. Every confrontation, every threat, every moment of violence or danger, it gets filed away. Human brains are persistence predator computers. We run scenarios constantly. We pattern match. We prepare. Walter Hayes had lived through 73 years of human existence. He'd seen bar fights, home invasions, wild animal encounters. He'd spent 2 years in Vietnam in 1970. The Creth Intelligence Division didn't know that part. They only scanned for current military service. That broom wasn't a cleaning tool. It was a combat staff he'd been building for 6 months. Walter was a hobbyist woodworker. When Earth received the Creth's first contact warning, he did what every practical elderly human does. He prepared for the worst-case scenario. He took a solid oak handle, reinforced it with steel core, added rubber grip sections, balanced the weight distribution for two-handed combat. The thing weighed 4 pounds. It had a reach of 6 feet. He'd watched the Los Angeles footage. He'd studied how the Vex Nari moved. He'd noticed something the military analysts missed. The creatures had a predictable attack pattern. They relied on intimidation first. They got close. They used their size advantage. They expected prey species to freeze. Walter spent 6 months practicing with that broom handle. 1 hour every morning. His neighbors thought he was exercising. He was running combat drills in his driveway at 5 a.m. The Vex Nari approached Walter at 3:03 p.m. It executed standard intimidation protocol, raised its full height, extended its claws, released the subsonic growl that paralyzed prey nervous systems through fear response. Walter squared his stance, gripped the broom handle, said 7 words that got recorded by 3 different doorbell cameras. "Son, I don't have time for this." The Vex Nari processed this as defective prey behavior. It moved into physical contact range, exactly what its programming demanded. Get close. Establish dominance. Watch the prey collapse psychologically. Walter swung. That oak staff caught the Vexnari across its forward knee joint with 40 years of accumulated old man strength. The sound echoed down the street like a gunshot. The creature's leg buckled, its attack pattern disrupted. For the first time in 300 years of Kreth military history, a Vexnari experienced something its genetics didn't have programming for. Pain combined with surprise, combined with an opponent who didn't run. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Because what Walter did next violated every Kreth understanding of how combat worked. And it's the reason the entire Kreth Empire changed their invasion doctrine. The Vexnari had never learned defense. They'd never needed to. Think about what that means. For 800 years, the Kreth bred these creatures for pure offense. Every genetic modification, every training protocol, every combat simulation, they all assumed the prey would run or freeze. The Vexnari were glass cannons, overwhelming attack power, zero defensive instinct. Walter Hayes had 40 years of dealing with aggressive dogs on his postal route. He understood something the Kreth never learned. The best way to stop an attacker isn't to run. It's to make them afraid of getting hit back. He didn't retreat. He advanced. That oak staff became a blur. Walter moved like someone who'd spent decades walking 23 miles daily. His footwork was economical. His strikes targeted joints and nerve clusters. He wasn't trying to kill the creature. He was introducing it to a concept its brain had never processed. Consequence. The Vexnari attempted its secondary attack pattern, the grapple. Get inside the opponent's reach. Use superior strength. Crush the prey. This worked on every previous species because they panicked. They tried to escape the grapple. They wasted energy on fear. Walter let the creature close. Then he drove the broom handle straight into its solar plexus with a thrust that had 73 years of "I'm done being polite" behind it. The Vexnari's breathing seized. Its grip loosened. For 2 full seconds, the most feared predator in 7-star systems experienced oxygen deprivation. Its brain screamed warnings its genetics had no framework to process. This is where everything changed, because the Vexnari did something unprecedented. It retreated 3 steps. It created distance. It reassessed. Kreth Command watched this through orbital surveillance. The collective shock paralyzed their tactical response. Vexnari don't retreat. They can't retreat. The Kreth had specifically bred out that capability because retreating prey becomes harder, prey to catch. But this wasn't retreat from a predator. This was tactical reassessment from an opponent. Walter didn't chase. He maintained his defensive stance. The broom handle remained level. His breathing stayed controlled. He was running calculations the Kreth couldn't intercept, measuring the creature's recovery time, watching for attack telegraphs, conserving energy. He was treating this like a threat, not a monster. There's a difference. Monsters make you panic. Threats make you focused. The Vexnari charged again. Standard Berserker protocol. If intimidation fails, overwhelm through speed and fury. This worked on military units because soldiers have protocols. They need to coordinate. They hesitate. Elderly humans don't coordinate with anyone. They've been independent for 70+ years. They make decisions instantly because they've made the same decisions 10,000 times before. Walter sidestepped. The movement was minimal, economical. He dodged aggressive dogs doing the exact same thing for 3 decades. The Vexnari's momentum carried it past him. Walter's counterstrike caught it across the base of its skull. Not hard enough to kill. Hard enough to ring its bell. Hard enough to introduce another new concept. Accumulated damage. Here's what the Kreth suddenly understood. Their apex predator was designed for quick, overwhelming victories. Not sustained combat. Not attrition warfare. The Vexnari's psychology couldn't handle an opponent who absorbed attacks and kept returning. But humans? We're literally designed for exactly that. We're persistence predators. We don't win through superior strength. We win through not quitting. We win by making the prey exhausted. Walter had just reversed the dynamic. The Vexnari was now the prey being worn down, and its brain had no programming for this scenario. The creature attempted 2 more attack sequences. Walter deflected both. His strikes were getting more precise. He was learning its patterns in real time. 73 years of pattern recognition working at full capacity. At 3:07 p.m., the Vexnari made its decision. It backed away, maintained distance, and then, according to 17 different camera angles, it lowered its attack posture, a gesture its species used to acknowledge a superior predator on its homeworld. The Kreth Orbital Command lost communications discipline for the first time in recorded history, because their apex predator had just submitted to a prey species elder with a wooden stick. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all, the part that made the Kreth Empire petition for protection from Earth. The Kreth didn't withdraw because they lost one warrior. They withdrew because Walter Hayes revealed humanity's actual survival mechanism, and it terrified them. Let me break down what happened in the next 72 hours. The Kreth Command immediately pulled every Vexnari from Earth's atmosphere. They classified the Walter Hayes footage at their highest security level. Then they did something unprecedented. They requested a formal diplomatic meeting with Earth's governments before issuing their ultimatum. They wanted to understand what Walter was. Earth's response confused them further. We sent a delegation of anthropologists, not generals, not weapons specialists, scientists who study human behavior. And these scientists explained something that made the Kreth Empire fundamentally reconsider their galactic position. Human elders aren't weaker versions of young humans. They're upgraded threat assessment systems with 70-plus years of combat data. Think about what that means from a predator's perspective. The Vexnari encountered prey that got more dangerous with age, that violated every biological model the Kreth understood. In nature, aging means declining. But humans broke that rule through one mechanism: knowledge transfer and accumulation. Walter Hayes wasn't special. He was average. That's what terrified the Kreth. Earth's anthropologists provided data. They showed combat footage of human elders across every era of human history. Viking berserkers in their 60s. Samurai masters in their 70s. Tribal elders leading war parties into their 80s. Military veterans returning to combat in their 60s during emergencies. The pattern was consistent. Older humans compensated for physical decline through experience, pattern recognition, and absolutely zero hesitation. They'd already processed fear decades ago. They had nothing left to prove. They just executed. The Kreth realized they'd made a catastrophic assessment error. They'd assumed human military age demographics matched combat effectiveness. They'd targeted younger soldiers because those had the best physical stats. They'd ignored the elderly completely. But Earth's most effective fighters weren't in their 20s. They were in their 60s and 70s. Not because they were stronger, because they'd spent decades turning every confrontation into a lesson. Their brains had created response libraries that activated instantly. The Kreth military psychologists studied Walter's footage frame by frame. They identified 47 decision points where he chose the optimal response within milliseconds. He never hesitated. He never second-guessed. His body executed decisions his brain made before he consciously thought them. This is what persistence predators do. We don't just hunt prey by outlasting it physically. We hunt it by learning everything about how it moves. Then we exploit those patterns until the prey has nowhere left to go. Walter Hayes had turned the Vexnari into prey in 4 minutes, using a broom handle at 73 years old, and he represented the average capability of Earth's elderly population. The Kreth Empire ran projections. If humans sent their elders into combat against Vexnari warriors, the mortality rate flipped. Young Vexnari against old humans resulted in a 63% Vexnari casualty rate. The simulations got worse from there. But here's the truly disturbing part for the Kreth. Humans didn't just have elderly fighters. We had billions of them, and we kept making more. Every year, a new generation of humans accumulated another year of threat assessment data. We were a species that turned aging into a weapon system. The Galactic Council received the Kreth's petition on day 4 after the incident. The document ran 300 pages. The core argument was simple. Humanity represented a persistent predator species that got more dangerous with age. This violated fundamental assumptions about how intelligent life evolved. The Kreth demanded humans be classified under ancient protocols designed for extinct species that the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia. Species that didn't just survive through evolution. Species that weaponized time itself. The Council granted the classification, and with it came regulations, restrictions, treaties. Because 16 other species immediately recognized the same pattern the Kreth did. If human elders could defeat Vexnari warriors with improvised weapons, what happened when they got access to galactic combat technology? The galaxy wasn't ready to find out. So what does all this mean for us today? What does it mean for humanity's place in a galaxy that suddenly sees us as something ancient and dangerous? The Walter Hayes incident, that's its official designation in galactic records, rewrote 300 years of interspecies combat doctrine. But the implications go far deeper than military strategy. First, let's talk about what happened to Walter himself. He didn't become a soldier. He didn't join any military force. He went back to woodworking and watering his tomatoes. The galactic media couldn't process this. They expected him to leverage his fame. Instead, he gave one interview where he said, "I just wanted them off my driveway so I could finish sweeping." That response confused alien psychologists more than the combat did. They'd never encountered a species where individuals could perform lethal combat and then return to mundane domestic activities without psychological processing time. Humans compartmentalize. We file things away. We move on. The Kreth Empire issued formal apologies to Earth. They paid reparations. They offered technology transfers. Earth's governments accepted with one condition: no military alliances. We'd participate in the Galactic Council as economic and cultural partners, not as someone's weapon. But 16 species filed private requests. They wanted human security consultants. Specifically, they wanted elderly human security consultants. What started as fear became demand. Think about what changed. Before Walter, the galaxy saw human aging as weakness. After Walter, they saw it as threat evolution. Human elders became the most requested bodyguards in galactic commerce. Not because we're stronger than alien species. Because we're unpredictable. Because we don't panic. Because 70 years of human experience creates a threat assessment computer that can't be hacked or deceived. A human bodyguard in their 70s costs 40 times more than equivalent alien security on the galactic market today. The waiting list runs 18 months. They're not hired to fight. They're hired to make potential threats reconsider. Their mere presence changes attacker calculus. The military implications are obvious. Earth's defense forces restructured around the persistence predator model. We stopped trying to match alien technology pound for pound. Instead, we leaned into what Walter demonstrated. Humans are optimized for making opponents quit through psychological attrition. Our combat doctrine became outlast them, outthink them, make them afraid of the cost of continuing. Every human soldier now trains with elderly combat instructors, not to learn techniques, to learn the mindset, the calm, the absolute certainty that you've seen worse and survived. But here's the personal takeaway that matters to you. Walter Hayes proved something every human carries, but most never activate. Decades of experience aren't just memories. They're weapons. Every challenge you've faced, every threat you've assessed, every moment you chose to stand firm instead of running, it all accumulates. You're not getting weaker with age. You're getting more dangerous. Your body might decline, but your threat recognition system is becoming more sophisticated every single day. You're running persistence predator software that's been optimizing for however many years you've been alive. The galaxy learned this about us. Maybe it's time we learned it about ourselves. There are practical applications. Conflict resolution studies now show that including older negotiators increases successful outcomes by 34%. Not because they're wiser, because they've seen more patterns. They recognize deception faster. They don't waste time on tactics that don't work. Corporate security firms are hiring retired military and law enforcement in their 60s and 70s at premium rates. These individuals don't have faster reflexes. They have better pattern recognition. They spot threats 3 steps before they materialize. The galaxy's fear of human elders created an unexpected market, but it also created a cultural shift. 16 species now request human cultural exchange programs, specifically focused on elder care and aging. They want to understand how we maintain threat capability across the lifespan. Some are trying to replicate it through genetic modification. It won't work, because what Walter demonstrated isn't genetic. It's accumulated. You can't breed it, you can't install it, you have to earn it through decades of existence. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. One piece of this story that changes everything about how we understand humanity's galactic future. 6 months after the Walter Hayes incident, the Galactic Council passed Resolution 7743. The official title was Regulation of Human-Modified Impact Tools in Interspecies Commerce. Everyone calls it the Combat Broom Treaty. That wooden staff Walter used? It's now classified as a restricted weapon under galactic law, not because it's particularly deadly, because of what it represents: human capability to turn everyday objects into threat systems using nothing but accumulated knowledge. The treaty requires any human traveling off-world to register any cylindrical object over 4 feet in length. Broom handles, walking sticks, curtain rods, pool cues. They're all logged. They all require permits. The galaxy created an entire regulatory framework around preventing elderly humans from accessing improvised weapons. Think about how absurd that is. 16 species that possess energy weapons, kinetic accelerators, and plasma systems are worried about humans with sticks. But the Galactic Council's Combat Analysis Division ran the numbers. In close quarters, a trained human elder with an improvised staff has a higher threat index than 70% of standard security weapons. Walter's broom handle sits in the Galactic Museum of Warfare on the Kreth homeworld. It's displayed in a reinforced case. The plaque reads, "The weapon that ended an invasion doctrine." Kreth military cadets study it as part of their training. They learn about assumption failures and assessment errors. But here's the final twist that reframes everything. The Kreth Empire didn't just withdraw from Earth. They hired Walter as a consultant. He spent 6 months teaching their military commanders about human persistence predator psychology. They paid him 4 million credits. He donated it all to his local library and community center. His reasoning: they asked nicely the second time. The galaxy is still processing what this means. Some species see humans as too dangerous for full integration. Others see us as the solution to threats they've faced for millennia. The debate continues in the Galactic Council every session, but Earth's position remains consistent. We're not your weapons. We're not your enemies. We're persistence predators who prefer cooperation. Push us hard enough, though, and we'll show you what 70,000 years of surviving on a Deathworld produced. Walter Hayes turned 74 last month. He still sweeps his driveway every afternoon. His neighbors know the full story now. They occasionally joke about it. He just smiles and keeps sweeping. There's a waiting list of 17 alien species wanting to meet him. Security firms offer him consulting contracts weekly. He declines everything. His response is always the same: "I've got a woodworking project to finish." That's the part the galaxy can't understand. The most feared human in 7-star systems just wants to be left alone to build furniture and grow tomatoes. He proved humans can defeat their apex, predators. Then he went back to retirement. We're a species that can switch from lethal combat to gardening in the same afternoon. That flexibility terrifies civilizations that spent millennia specializing. They optimized for one thing. We optimized for surviving everything. The Walter Hayes incident will be studied for centuries. Military academies across the galaxy use it as the foundational case study for assumption failure. But for humans, it just confirmed what we already knew deep down. We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest. We're not the smartest. But we're the ones who don't quit. We're the ones who turn time into a weapon. We're the ones who make you question whether winning is worth the cost. If this opened your eyes to what humanity represents in the larger galaxy, there's so much more to explore. Let's recap what we've uncovered. The galaxy's most feared apex predator couldn't defeat a 73-year-old human with a broom handle because the Kreth Empire made a fatal assumption that aging equals weakness. Walter Hayes proved the opposite. Human elders are upgraded threat systems with decades of pattern recognition. That 4-minute encounter rewrote 300 years of galactic military doctrine and turned human aging into a weapon system the galaxy now regulates through treaty. 3 massive takeaways you need to remember. First, human persistence predator psychology makes us more dangerous with age, not less. Our accumulated experience becomes a combat advantage that alien species literally cannot replicate through genetics or technology. Second, the galaxy now sees elderly humans as premium security assets worth 40 times standard protection rates. What we thought was decline, they see as threat evolution. Third, one man with a wooden stick forced an interstellar empire to reclassify humans under protocols designed for extinct apex species. We're not just another member of the galactic community. We're something they haven't seen in 2,000 years. This is why I keep digging into these HFY stories. Because they reveal what makes humanity unique in a galaxy full of species that optimized for one thing while we optimized for surviving everything. They expose the mechanisms that turned us from prey into the predators that even apex species fear. If you found this story fascinating, hit that subscribe button right now. We're uncovering more encounters where humans did the impossible using nothing but stubbornness and accumulated knowledge. Next video drops in 3 days, and it's about the human grandmother who negotiated a peace treaty using nothing but guilt trips and passive-aggressive comments. The alien diplomats never stood a chance. Drop a like if Walter Hayes represents everything you love about humanity's refusal to accept reasonable limitations. That old man energy where you've survived too much to be intimidated by anything, that's the power we all carry. Here's my question for you, and I want to see your answers in the comments. What everyday object in your house would you turn into a combat tool if aliens invaded tomorrow? Be specific. Tell me why you chose it and how you'd use it. The best answer gets pinned, and I'll feature it in the next video. For those of you who want to go deeper, and I mean really understand the science behind human persistence predator evolution, I've created a comprehensive guide that breaks down the biological and psychological mechanisms that make humans uniquely terrifying to the galaxy. It covers everything from our threat assessment systems to why accumulated experience beats raw physical strength. The link is in the description. It's not necessary to enjoy these stories, but if you want to understand the why behind the wow, it's worth checking out. We're building a community here of people who understand that humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or firepower. It's our refusal to quit, our ability to turn time into advantage, our tendency to remain calm while the galaxy panics. If that resonates with you, this is your tribe. The Walter Hayes incident proved something the galaxy feared, but we always knew. Don't underestimate the elderly human who's seen it all and has nothing left to prove. They're not weak. They're optimized. They're persistence predators at peak efficiency. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Join this journey as we uncover every story where humanity reminded the galaxy why Earth is a death world and where its apex exports. Until next time, remember, you're not getting older. You're accumulating tactical data. And somewhere in the galaxy, someone's learning to fear that.